So, so we are in the season of rain. We're in the season of rain, and you know, the roads are wet and muddy and sandy and dusty. And as we drive down different roads, our cars get wet. They get muddy and sandy and full of dust. And for most of us, we are so discouraged to wash our cars during this time of the season because we think to ourselves, what's the point? What's the point? I'm going to wash this car. The next thing is going to get dirty again. So what's the point? So we then leave it for later. We say, you know what? Let the rain stop and then I'll wash the car. But as long as the rain continues, we don't care to wash our cars, right? I'm guilty of that myself. I get really discouraged to get my car cleaned up during rainy season. But what we don't realize is that, if you leave your car exposed to mud and sand and dust for too long, it damages the surface of your car. In other words, the bodywork, the painting, the coating on your car is going to get damaged because sand is a form of chemical. If you think about it, sand is a form of chemical. I mean, if you leave sand on a specific surface for too long, it begins to eat away that surface. It begins to rust and begins to damage that part of the surface that is exposed to, right? So it's the same thing when your car is exposed to mud and sand and dust for too long. What happens is it settles in on the surface of your car and it begins to create rust and begins to damage the paintwork on your car. It begins to crack and it begins to peel off, right? Because of the sand. Because of the sand. But it's not something that we think about, right? So what ends up happening is at the end of the day, you're gonna have to redo the whole car, repaint it, simply because there are certain parts of the surface of your car that are damaged. And it's a very untidy to leave it like that. So in order to fix it, you have to remove the whole paint and put in a new one, which will cost you time and money. So it's a lot more work. And it could have been avoided just by giving your car a splash. You don't have to wash it completely. Just splash it. Just remove the mud, remove the sand, and leave it like that. Then you can give it a proper wash once it has stopped raining. But don't leave that mud and the sand and the dust on your car for a prolonged period of time because it's going to damage the surface of your car. So what's the mud in your life? What's the sand, the dust in your life that you have left for too long? What is it? Is it wrong people? Wrong environments? What have you exposed yourself to for a prolonged period of time that is now beginning to damage and create cracks in your life? Whatever it is, if you're going to leave it for too long, it's going to damage your life. Your life is going to fall apart and it's going to cost you a lot more time and sometimes even money to get it right, to get it fixed. So we exposed ourselves to mud and sand and dust in our lives. And because of that, cracks begin to develop in our lives. Our lives begin to peel away. Our lives begin to fall apart as a result of the mud and the sand and the dust that we've exposed ourselves to. So what is the mud in your life? What are those things that you've exposed yourselves to? You keep saying, no, I'll wash the car. I'll wash the car when it has stopped raining. Now, right now, time doesn't allow. So I'll wash it. So the environment you're in is not good for you. The people that you hang with are not good for you. The kind of habits and behaviors that you get yourself involved in are not good for you. But you keep saying, I will clean up later. Not now. I'll clean up later. I'll get myself sorted later. Not now. You keep ignoring it. You keep neglecting that. So you expose yourself to this mud for too long. But what you don't realize is it begins to grow in you. It begins to get a hold of you. And once it is so deeply ingrained inside of you, it's going to be a lot difficult, a lot harder for you to get rid of those people, because they have formed such a big part of your life that you can't even think of a life apart from them. Your behaviors and habits have become such a big part of your life that it's become so difficult for you to break away from them, because you've allowed them to stay in your life for too long. Whatever that you've exposed your mind to, whatever mud you've exposed your mind to, and you need to get cleaned up, but you keep saying, no, I'll do it when time and space allows. And so that mud begins to create rust in your life. And your life begins to crack. It begins to peel off and begins to fall apart. And for you to redo the whole thing, for you to fix your life, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more difficult. So what is the mud in your life? What is the sand and the dust in your life? Whatever it is, get it cleaned up. Give it a good wash so that you can protect yourself and protect your life from cracking and peeling off and falling apart. Cheers, guys.